So style-wise, I would at the very least like sidebar and chat to be side by side instead of one on top of the other. So let's see if we can do at least that much. Thankfully, the CSS in this static project is fairly well organized. So there is a main.css that contains the CSS that really applies to the main component. So I want these styles right here. So because it's targeting a class of capital M main, we could just put this CSS anywhere, including an app CSS, and it would do what we want. But let's learn how we could actually scope these styles to just that component without using traditional classes. There's another way to style things in React, and that is by actually putting the styles in JavaScript instead of in CSS. Here's what I mean. So in main, besides our class, after that, I'm going to make another variable, const styles. And styles is an object. And that object is going to contain that CSS, basically, but as JavaScript instead of as CSS. So it's just going to be a JavaScript object containing all my styles. Now that means I have to change it a little bit. For example, align items is going to have to change because that's, when you're writing a JavaScript object, you generally don't put dashes and things in the keys. And if you use the style property on a DOM element in JavaScript, like if you actually grabbed the element from the page and started modifying its CSS using .style .something, we write all the CSS properties as camel case instead of with dashes in them, like background color. We did that in the last project. So the same goes here. We need to camel case our property names, and we'll need to quote our values because flex without quotes around it would not be a valid JavaScript value. So I'll say display colon the string flex. And this is a JavaScript object, so no semicolons. Instead, we have commas, right? Align items camel cased, the string stretch, comma, and height, the string 100 VH. And I like to put my trailing comma there, and this is totally just a JavaScript object now, so you can do that. Anybody know what 100 VH means? I keep using a lot of weird units in this class. We think we've used rims, we've used M's, we've used, what was the first one I used? I think I might have used VW, yeah.
I think it means like all of the screen.
In one particular direction, the height, that's right. So it means the height of the window. Viewport height is what VH stands for, viewport height. So 100 VH means fill the whole darn thing vertically. Display flex means I'm going to use flexbox to style this, to do the layout. And align items stretch means that the immediate children of main should stretch vertically to fill their container. So that should maybe get us what we're looking for. Well, nothing yet. Styles is assigned a value but never used, it warns me. So we have this variable styles, but we're not using it. So we need to tell it that we actually want to use it to style this component. So on our div here, we can just add a style prop. Remember, they look like attributes, but they're not attributes. They're props, because this is JSX. So style equals, and then I want to set it to that object. So if I put quotes here, I would be setting it to a string, right? So to set it to any other type of value, I use curly braces. And I want to set it to that object right there. So styles. If I wanted to just write the object right there inside my JSX instead of using a variable, I would have to put two sets of curly braces, right? You can totally do that. So the curly braces to tell it, hey, this is a JavaScript expression, and then the curly braces that actually mean, hey, this thing is an object literal. But we do have a variable for it. So style equals styles. And now they're side by side. And if I inspect this and look at my div class main, you'll see it actually has a style attribute on it. So that's what it's doing effectively. Now we can write something that looks very much like CSS by putting this object here. But by using that style prop, we're actually using inline styles in the actual DOM when this is rendered. Which means there's no risk of anything you put here kind of infecting other parts of the page. If you get to writing complicated front-end stuff with lots of styles, you sometimes have the problem that you have some CSS that you wish weren't affecting part of the page, but your selector is not specific enough to keep that from happening, so you have to change your markup or you have to change your classes or something, and it can be a lot to manage. So sometimes just doing the CSS in JavaScript like this makes that easier. I know this is never going to affect anything except main and potentially main's children because it's not really a style sheet. We're making inline styles by putting a style object in CSS. And so far, all it's gotten us is that sidebar and chat are side by side. But hey, it's a start. Style main.